Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha, Rakakwadash, Mamath. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and the elders. Double honors to my apostle as well, Aharawan, Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Atwafium, and children Bunyam that believe in truth and sincerity. It's your brother Athan back to you with another lesson. And Yahweh is edifying. All right, and as you can see, all right, again, the middle class continually being wiped away. All right, your privately owned businesses, your mom and pop stores, especially in the quote unquote so-called black community. All right, they're getting done away with. Why? Because it's the tariffs, the costs. All right, America is not that great city that it once was. Okay, on the up and up as far as the economy. All right, things are drastically decreasing. All right, as you can see here, it says sad news for Jacksonville after 68 years. Jenkins Barbecue is shutting down all of its locations. All right, but the reasons why they're closing down, as you can see in the bottom right, it says, dear customers, we will be closing our doors at all 3 locations of Jenkins Quality Barbecue on September 30th, 2025 due to rising costs of food and labor, shifting customer trends, and supply chain issues. After 68 years of servicing our Jacksonville community, right, almost 70 years, man, we took, it could have been a century, right? The longer we here in this damn hellhole, this place, but this how you show, this how the Lord is showing you that we're at the end of a thing, okay? All right, and they need to stop selling the swine anyway, right? But one of the first scriptures I want to get is Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 10. I'll start at, all right? And it says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I would not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, right? And we know ancient Egypt surpassed, right, to where the Lord delivered all Israel out of ancient Egypt, all right, to where now we're in the revamped Roman infrastructure, and we're in a revamped Egypt, all right. Again, Egypt being synonymous for the house of bondage, as we're in a new house of bondage, all right. Our last captivity being Babylon the Great. All right. You can also equate that to Revelations 11, verse 8, as this is spiritually Sodom and Egypt. All right. This is spiritually Sodom and Gomorrah to the agendas it push and what it upholds pertaining to those groups of people, even putting them within civil rights, right? Trying to make them equal to what we're not equal to, which is us, the Israelites. All right, especially the so-called man of the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latino, Native American, and Seminole Indian man, and those are the speckled bird who may look like the other nations, but you bear the same spirit as such. All right, because you bear witness to this truth. All right, you're you're conflicted with the way this world and the course that this world is operating in. All right, you very well could be an Israelite man. All right, woman or child. All right, if your spirit dwells within this truth, your spirit understands this truth. Most importantly, all right. But they try to make us equal to these things that are superficial. All right, ultimately, all right, that man created. All right, to try to dumb down our value, our true value. All right, which is the gods of the earth, the gods of this society. Right, God just meaning power. As we're the powers that be. All right. Lord willing, we're part of that number, those who listening and learning. All right. You know, but yeah, this is ancient Egypt. All right. So the Lord is not going to suffer for his people to continually to dwell in this place. All right. Scriptures speak on my people sold themselves for naught, and ye shall be redeemed without money. But here's the point in verse 11. This is Second Ezra chapter 15 verse 11. But I will bring them with the mighty hand and the stretched out arm. And that's what's being brought forth today. All right, the mighty hand and the stretched forth arm of the hopeful elect. All right, us men on the highways and byways, preaching this truth unto our people. All right, that's the Lord's stretched out arm, giving our people a chance at salvation. All right, ultimately to be saved from a trap, because the trap is coming as nobody saved already. All right, the destruction of World War III, the Lord getting ready to denuclearize the earth. All right, this devil is getting ready to show his horns pertaining to Revelations 12 and 12. All right, he's coming with that flood, that great wrath. All right, and whoever is without the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to get caught up in it ultimately. All right, so this is the Lord, this is his mighty hand and his stretched out arm. All right, it can be in your favor as far as grace and protection. All right, having a cloak of protection. All right, a hedge around you pertaining to Psalms 91. Right, that strong tower. Right, those who run up into it is safe. Or you can be, he can be that mighty hand upon you, man, of chastisement, destruction. Right. But it says here, and smite Egypt with plagues, right? He's gonna smite Egypt with plagues as before, right? So he's gonna do it a second time. It says as before. So this is speaking on what? This modern day Egypt. All right, this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, this modern day Basra, the land of the Chaldeans, America. All right, Mystery Babylon. All right, the daughter of Babylon, that great city. All right, it's speaking on America as the Lord is bringing these same plagues that he brought on ancient Egypt. Right, you know, we had events of you had locusts and things like that throughout the four corners of the earth that was happening. All right, pre-planinic, post-planinic, and it's all go come upon this place. All right, the grinding ceasing. All right, and pertaining to this topic, famine. All right, famine. All right, not just the famine of food, but also famine of hearing of the words. But this is more so pertaining to the physical famine. All right, on how things are getting pretty much uh, consolidated to these corporations that Esau run. So Esau can ration out the food, the Hegelian dialect, all right, the order out of chaos. All right, and that's why these middle class businesses, they either getting brought out or they're going out of business because they can't maintain. All right, due to the demographics, the economical changes that we're in. All right, because the Lord is he's bringing that mighty hand and that stretched out arm upon this place. All right, it's verse 12. This is second Ezra 15 and 12. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting in hell and with the fearful constellation, man. And that's what's going on. Everything that you try to prosper here in this society is ultimately go come to naught. All right, Ecclesiastes. All right, everything under the sun is vanity of vanities, and it's all going back to the elements, right? And this is the book of Psalms, chapter 105. All right, as the top reads, the Lord's wonderful works in behalf of Israel. All right, because that's ultimately who salvation is for. That's who the Lord is coming to deliver. All right, and none else. All right, it's a remnant of Israel that's gonna be saved. It's an election of Israel that's written in a book to be saved from the said perils, man, the oncoming destruction. All right, even 2/3 of his own people is gonna perish in this destruction. All right, to ultimately be born again in the kingdom through the loins of the elect. All right, he's not gonna save all Israel in the second Egypt. All right, as he done the first. All right, because what he did after the first Egypt, man. You know, you had to march around Jericho. All right, you had those who were not able to go into the promised land with Joshua. All right, because all Israel is not of Israel, especially in these times. All right, but this is Psalms chapter 105 and verse. I want to start at verse 8, but I'll start at verse 6 because it's a point that stand out to me. And it says, O ye seed of Abraham, his servant, ye children of Jacob, his chosen, right? Because in Isaac shall the seed be called, and Isaac begot Jacob. He is the Lord, our power, right? Our is possessive. His judgments are in all the earth, right? Even though he's the God of all the earth, all the people, all of humanity, he belongs to Israel. He belongs to Jacob, right? Um, Not that we're all children of Abraham, are we all children? But Isaac shall the seed be called, roughly paraphrasing. All right. So it doesn't matter that we all come from the stock of Abraham, so to speak. It's about who the lineage and the promise goes back to, as Abraham was the Lord's friend, and the promises is going to be passed down through Abraham to Isaac and to Jacob. But this is Psalms 105 and verse 8. He have remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, which covenant he made with Abraham, right? And that's ultimately what it goes back to. Again, that promise with his friend Abraham, right? And his oath unto Isaac, right? And that's what it gets passed down to, all right, as we go keep reiterating that, all right? Again, in Isaac shall the seed be called. There is a separation, all right? The Lord dissects and separates, right? He's about separation, right? That's what the term holy means. Holy means to be set apart, to be separate, all right? So he's chosen a holy people unto himself, a peculiar people unto himself, right? And that is the nation of Israel. So-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, and those of the speckled bird who may think or look like the other nations, but your spirit bear witness to this truth, because physically your lineage going back to your father, no matter how they look, going back to the ancient times, you're from the seed of Israel, all right? It's just due to the mixing and mingling of the past captivities to where you might be somewhat diluted, so to speak, you know, different melanated hue, right? This is back in Psalms 105 and verse 10, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying, unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance, when they were but a few men in number, yeah, very few, and strangers in it, when they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people. He suffered no man to do them wrong. Yeah, he reproved kings for their sakes, and that's what you're seeing being done, man. The Lord reproving kings, these oligarchs, these so-called rulers amongst the earth. He's reproving them for the Israelite sakes. All right. No kingdom has been established on this planet Earth without having the majority of the Lord's children in servitude. No kingdom. All right. And they all have to pay for it. And Esau, he's been running rapid for a while. All right. And he's the ambassador of the heathen. He has topped the other heathens. He has topped the other captivities pertaining to his wickedness. So the Lord is getting ready to reprove him. All right. He's getting ready to reprove, correct this devil for our sakes, for the nation of Israel's sakes, ultimately to show that he is, all right, Yahweh, he is, or he exists, right, to show his power through us, through his people, that he never left, he never, he just turned his face away from the nation of Israel for their disobedience, and showed them what wickedness really is, since they want to be that so well, by putting them in captivity after captivity. All right. So what? The Lord is reproving these kings, these oligarchs around the earth. He's reproving them for our sakes. All right. Scripture come to mind, Daniel 4 and 17. And this is the book of Daniel, chapter 4 and verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, right? The ones who separate, to the intent that the living may know, right? That the living may know, that humanity may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, right? And giveth it to whomsoever he will, right? And that's why you have regime change after regime change, especially being that his very own people needed to be taught a lesson, because all they would do is wax fat and kick, wax fat and kick. The Lord would give them everything in abundance, and they will go off. They won't keep the covenant. They won't keep the law. They'll be disobedient. All right. So again, the Most High, he ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and set up over it the basis of men. And you think of basis, you think of the lowest, the bottom. All right. No, they are bottom feeders. All right. You can get that in Job. All right. Job spoke on how they're bottom feeders in a sense. All right. And this is Job 30 and 5, just to get to the point. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, right? Because they were in the one of all things, right? They will get the scraps from wherever they can get them from, dwelling in the caves in the Caucasus Mountains of Mount Seir. Geographically, the day would be Georgia, Russia, right? Verse 6, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth and in the rocks, right? That's why they had that same modus operandi, right? That same sentiment, that same kind of lifestyle today, whether there's in luxury living in a penthouse in 10,000s and thousands of feet in the air at the roof of a building, and everybody's under them, beneath them, all right, or so on and so forth, man. They like skyscraper buildings, erect buildings. No TD Jakes. Verse 7, among the bushes they braid under the nettles, and that's wickedness. All right, things pointing up into the Shemaims. Among the bushes they braid, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yeah, children of base men. There you go. They were children of base men. They were viler than the earth, right? They were viler than the earth. And now am I their song? Yeah, I am their byword, right? And that's what we are today. All right, we're in the same state Job was in, and what understanding this truth. All right, it brings a sorrow to you. All right, it brings a grief to you because what? Yeah, it makes you happy because it's good news, right? The gospel is good news. All right, we know where we're going. We know what the Lord is coming to do. All right, we know what we have to do to get right and to be in His good graces so we can be exempt, right? But it gives you that bad taste, that bitterness. All right, understanding that we're their byword, we're their song. All right, and this is the basis of men. All right, He's more violent than the earth. All right, so that's why the Lord is getting ready to reprove this devil. All right, the world was given into his hands. All right, because that's the temporal blessing to have everything in the flesh. All right, well, there's more to the spiritual things than it is to the flesh. So we go have the abundance of the spiritual things. All right, while this flesh is getting ready to be done away with. So this is Psalms, back in Psalms chapter 105, and I believe we stopped at verse 15. All right, just to continue on to the point. All right, because we know we kind of going veering off topic. The point is really famine. All right, but it's just some good points here. You know, you got lessons within lessons, but it says here in Psalms 105 and 15, it says, saying, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm, right? Because what? In that time to come, all right, in destruction, all right, the elect is gonna laugh. Right? We go be fed in that day. All right, whether it be divine intervention, all right, the ravens coming to drop food like they did Elijah, whatever the case may be, we go be fed in that day. We go know what to do in that day. The Lord go put it in our hearts, our mind, to do so, to be prepared. All right. Verse 16. Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. Right, here's the point. He break the whole staff of bread. Right, and that's what he's doing. All right, and this going into ancient Egypt. All right, and it's kind of the topic. All right, we started off in 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 10, 11, right? Going on how he's gonna smite, he gonna smite this Egypt with the same plagues as before. All right, because this is modern day Egypt pertaining to Revelations 11 verse 8. All right, so here's Psalms 105 and verse 16. All right, he says, moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He broke the whole staff of bread. Right, he broke the whole staff of bread. All right, and that's what's he's speaking on ancient Egypt, man, the past captivities. All right, you know, so again, it goes back to this promise from what the Lord to Abraham, but Isaac shall the seed be called. All right, I want to line this up with Genesis 11. It was going into Babel, but it was going into the lineage of like Abraham. I was reading on, just doing a little quick read study, because I was thinking on how like the Lord revamped the earth from the times of Noah, and you had his sons Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and that's where he replenished the earth. So Abraham come from Shem, he come from that lot, that stock line. You can read that in Genesis 11. All right, start at verse 10 as it says, descendants of Shem. All right, and it even goes into how Lot, and me and some of the Akim spoke on that yesterday after camp, on how Lot was like his, well, Lot wasn't like, but it was his nephew. All right. This is Genesis 11 and verse 25. And Noah lived after he begot Terah 190 years and begot sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. All right. All right. So Lot was Abraham's nephew, as Terah begot Abraham, Noah, and Haran. All right. So Haran being Abraham's either sister or brother begot Lot. All right. And it says here in verse 28, and Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in of the Chaldeans. And Abram and took them wives, right? So they were brothers. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Noah's wife, Malakah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Malakah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarah was barren, she had no child. And Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, right, his nephew, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, his son's Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years. And Terah died in Haran. All right. Well, that's just the lineage, going down into the lineage of how Abraham was come from the seed line of Shem. So we can't be anti-Shemitic. All right, we are Shemitic. So as a so-called Arab, Ishmael, so-called self-proclaimed White, man. All right, as he's Shemitic as well. All right, the crimson one. All right, Edom, Esau. But this is Genesis 12, and I start verse 1 just to get a quick read. It was something I wanted out of this. Let's see if the spirit come back to me. I can dissect it. But just going into the seed line of Abraham, also speaking on Egypt. All right, it says here in the top of the chapter, it says Abraham journeys to Egypt. All right, and it says here in verse 1, now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred. Right, the spirit was always dwelling with these men. All right, and they moved in that manner. They moved through the spirit, and they listened to Yahweh for things to ultimately work in their favor. And that's what we have to do in these latter times, ultimately nearing the end of destruction, calamities. All right, we got to go with our gut feeling, all right, our spirit, all right, because it's been prepared to do so. All right. And it says, here Genesis 12 and 1 from the top, it says, now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, right? And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed, right? All right, but it is going to be a chosen family within him. All right, again, that's going to bear the covenant, the promises, and that's through Jacob and through Isaac and through Jacob, Salaki, in that order, right? So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, right, his nephew. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substances that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram, and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. Right, and that's how it's imperative, man. It's always was men calling upon the true and rightful name of the Lord. And that's why the rightful name of the Lord is not given to everybody in these times. It's only given to his servants, the prophets, man. And ultimately, being that they've been given those secrets, they're not just servants, but they're friends. All right, pertaining to John chapter 17. All right, the name is imperative. All right, that aligns up with Acts 4 and 12. All right, there's no other name under the sun that's going to be given for salvation, roughly paraphrasing. All right. So again, just as the Lord friend used his name and Abraham, so as the rest of the prophets, David, so on and so forth. So that debunks the lie of how his name don't matter or he has many names. All right, it says here, and he called upon the name of the Lord. And it's verse 9, and Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south, and there was a famine in the land, right? And this is the point I want to bring out, all right, is again, more famine talks, all right? But again, if you're dwelling in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, you've been doing his will, all right, to the best of your ability, all right? We go have hope in famine. We go be fed in that day. We go be protected. We go have a hedge of protection in that day. Lord's willing. We're a part of that number. All right. It says here in verse 10, and there was a famine in the land. And Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarah his wife, behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman. Right, and this one he actually gave his woman up to the Pharaoh. Well, he allowed his woman to be vulnerable to be taken by the Pharaoh, for him to ultimately commit an abomination, an act that's gonna be a fault against him. All right, just trusting and believing in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, that thing was gonna work out in his favor, and that's what the mindset that we have to have. We have to have the mindset as the rest of the prophets, as Abraham, right, knowing that the Lord got our back, and even though things may look uh, 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 you know, contrary to our faith, all right, we to keep our faith, all right, and don't doubt, all right, because that's the game, right? That's the game. That's the spiritual fight. That's the spiritual battle. That's the spiritual war, all right. That's the devil's game, all right. The spirit of illusion, all right, of things that we can't control, but we can control our faith in knowing that the Lord is go come through because of these accounts that we have learned about, we read about, we've listened to, all right, that we ultimately believe that he's go bring forth, all right, on our behalf when it comes to salvation, divine intervention, spiritual power, right, being fed in the gruesome times, protected in the gruesome times. This is Genesis 12 and 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there. For the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarah his wife, Behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abraham was come into Egypt, right, a good lie, right? You my sister. The Egyptians, which technically you are, through the spirit of truth, right? So it ain't a lie still, right? And it says the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair, right? He did right as he thought they was gonna do. Because the spirit is upon us. We got to go with our gut feeling, right? Which is really our heart, our mind, right? We really got the real intuition, the know-how, being in this truth, being the men of this truth, right? We're the ones guided and have the unction to know a thing, to know all things ultimately. All right. This is verse 15. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entered Abraham well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen, and he asses and men servants and maid servants, and she asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abraham's wife, right? Again, scriptures speak on that, right? You you heap coals upon his head, roughly paraphrasing, right? And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife, right? Why sayest thou, She is my sister, so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away and his wife and all that he had, man. Just a good little quick read. But I want to go from there and go get Isaiah chapter 51. All right, and start at verse 1. It says, Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye were digged, right? And that rock could be a rock of refuge, all right? But to a lot of our people, to 2/3 of our people who deny this word, who deny this truth, who deny the Lord's coming, who deny what's for their welfare, it's going to be a rock. He's going to be a rock of offense, right? These wayward Hebrew Israelite camps who don't acknowledge the name of the Heavenly Father, which is Yahweh, and his son's name being Yahweh Shai, like IUIC, ISUPK, the Adam Abbotts, the Sakaris, all these wayward Hebrew Israelite camps who have perverse doctrines, all right? It's gonna be a rock of offense to them, all right? And it's the same rock whence they are hewn from, all right? But they're in the mindset of 2/3 of our people, all right? But it says here in verse 2, Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him, right? For the Lord shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, right? Because right now is like the Garden of Eden, and after is annihilated. It was the Garden of Eden, and it's annihilated. It's a wilderness, and it got to go back to a wilderness, to the Garden of Eden in the righteous sense, right? Her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein. Thanksgiving and the voice of melody, right? Peace, right? True peace, true abundance. Hearken unto me, my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation. Right? These are possessive words. For a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near, my salvation is going forth, and my arms shall judge the people. The owls shall wait upon me, and on mine arm shall they trust. Right? That stretched out arm, right? And that's why that stretched out arm is the form of grace. All right. All right. But if you don't take that grace from that stretched out arm, it's ultimately just go be a mighty hand. It's go you go meet Alashadja, not the deliverer, not the one that exists. You go meet Alashadja, all right, that demon like power. This Isaiah 51:6. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, right? And the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished, right? Right. So you either believe or you damned if you don't. All right. You'll be given a portion of the unbelievers. All right. It's that simple. This verse 7, hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men, neither be ye afraid of their revelings, right? You know, they're closing down your mom and pops and your local stores that you've been frequenting and supporting for years on top of years. Is ultimately got to come to naught. All right, the Lord is getting ready to bring a famine upon this place, a famine upon the land. All right, America, Babylon the Great. You know, for the reproof of His people. All right, these are scourges for amendment, so to speak. All right, so you want to be in the Lord's good graces and don't have to suffer the famine in the worst way, right? Die of starvation, your body eating of itself, rough, so on and so forth. Your mind going bonkers. You eating your children, things of that nature. This is the book of Second Ezra, um, chapter 16 and verse 19 to get a point. It says, "Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment," right? For correction. All right. This is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 39 and verse 29. Fire and hail and famine and death are these, all these were created for vengeance, right? Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword punishing the wicked to destruction, right? So this is what the Lord created, man. Fire and hail and famine. These are all for the wicked, all right? 2/3 of our people and the heathen. Because at what heathen has not had a hand in our captivity, all right? So you have the right hand side of what the Lord go do for you if you in His good graces pertaining to famine, and you have the left hand side of what famine is for. It's for the wicked, right? See more right hand side. This is the book of Job, chapter 5 and verse 20. This verse 19. It's Job 5 and 19. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yeah, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword, right? So no evils go touch thee. All right. In famine, he go redeem you from death. He go make sure you don't starve out to death. All right. And in war from the power of the sword, man. You're not gonna meet it. You're not gonna see those perilous times because he loved thee. This is Psalms 107 and verse 34 to get to a point, straight to the point. A fruitful land into barrenness for the wickedness of them that dwell therein, right? And that's just a clear-cut scripture of what the Lord is bringing, which is turning this fruitful place, this fruitful land, of this place they want to build and make great again, he's going to turn it into barrenness, right? It's not going to be able to be fruitful. It's the book of St. Luke, chapter 12, and verse 33. It says, whoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it. Whoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. Right? The brother Arayala, all right, Arayala done a your part lesson on the bunkers. All right. They even got fucking big display signs, all right, on the expressway. Those big old you know, those jumbotron type like displays out there in the city of selling bunkers. All right, companies out here that's really making real money. All right, millions, if not billions, of dollars on building bunkers for these elitists and these rich folk. All right. So again, whoever shall seek to save his life, go lose it ultimately. All right, because you think you can outsmart the Heavenly Father. And whoever shall lose his life shall preserve it, man. And we lost it already. We love not our lives, man. We do the will of the Heavenly Father. We put our hand on the plow. All right. We suffer our affliction cheerfully with the hopes of yielding a better fruit, a peaceable fruit, a righteous fruit that the Lord ultimately go accept, you know, as a token to be, you know, saved, initiated, called upon in that day, as we've been called to do the work. All right. We've been chosen to do the work, all right? We're waiting on our name to ultimately be called, all right, to be written. This is the book of Amos, chapter 4 and verse 6. And I also have given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and want of bread in all your places. Yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord, right? You know, the Lord chastise our people time and time again, like he's going to do now. They upset about Jenkins barbecue and they swine not being able to be efficient and cut. They go miss them rib sandwiches. That's all Jake was talking about. Man, we go miss them rib sandwiches, right? And they ain't even need the shit anyway. It's for their welfare. All right, but they don't plead their cause and go to back for what's truly for their welfare, like salvation, like Yahweh Shai, the name of the Yahweh Shai, right? So the Lord, he given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and want of bread in all your places. Yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord. Man, right? He make it easy for you to really sit down and evaluate and be like, man, what's going on, and have to return back to Him. And our people still don't do so because they smite with madness. All right, their table been made a snare. All right, it's written for them not to return. It's verse 7. And also I have withholden the rain from you when there were yet 3 months to the harvest, and I caused it to rain upon one city and caused it not to rain upon another city. One piece was rained upon, and the piece whereupon it rained not withered. And that's that's what the Lord could do, to where we could be out in camp and it could be raining in a different part of Jacksonville, as the city's so big, and we can be, you know, we can get a little sprinkle and not be rained on. All right, we continue to do the work, um, so on and so forth, man. You know, or you can call it down like Elijah, calling down rain, fire from heaven. You know, calling down fire from heaven. All right, so, you know, just showing you the spiritual power aspect of it, the divine intervention aspect of how the Lord can do what He wants, and He can put it on His men to execute it out as well. All right, and them the times we coming into, to where if we just have faith, all right, just the size of a mustard seed, we'll be protected from these things. All right, but 2/3 of our people, little do they know, all right, you know, they being set up for the okie doke, all right, because they believe a lie. This is Ezekiel chapter 14 and verse 13. Son of man, when the land sinneth against me by trespassing grievously, Then will I stretch out my hand upon it, and I will break the staff of bread thereof, and I will send famine upon it, and will cut off man and beast from it. Man, that's what he's doing. Though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should deliver but their own souls by their righteousness, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Man, that's why every individual go be accounted for their own sins, man, and what you've done in your body and what you're doing now, especially as far as preparing yourself from destruction, preparing yourself from the coming of the Lord. Everybody want the Lord to come back, all right, thinking he's coming to sing kumbaya and hold hands and there he go love on everybody. All right. You know, that's the heathen mindset. All right. But we know when this land has sinned against the Lord, it's trespassed grievously. So we don't want no part of this place. That's why it's in what is it? Micah 2:10. Well, we gotta rise and depart, for this is not our rest, roughly paraphrasing. All right. And it's not a physical leaving, but a spiritual leaving first. That's Micah 2:10. All right. Because the Lord is what he breaking the staff of bread, man. That's what he's doing. You know, there it is again. And he cutting off man and beast from it. You know, we read the accounts of Abraham, right, who is from the stock of Noah, right? Job was his nephew. So it says here in verse 14, though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should deliver but their own souls by their righteousness, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. They was in the know of what the Lord was bringing, that stretched forth arm, that mighty hand, just like he's doing now in this ancient Egypt, all right? I mean, in this second Egypt, all right, pertaining to Revelations 11, verse 8. This is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, all right? So again, it's that famine in that the Lord breaking that staff of bread for Jake, all right, ultimately for them to really wake up and see the spiritual weather, the spiritual climate, what the Lord is getting ready to come to do. But 2/3 of our people not go acknowledge it. All right, you know, they're not gonna have any form of righteousness for a cloak for their sins. All right, they're gonna have a cloak of maliciousness. All right, and ultimately, this word is gonna come to an end as well. So you have the famine of the physical bread, the Lord breaking the staff of bread, physically and spiritually. All right, to where they're not gonna be able to recoup. All right, they're not gonna be able to buy oil in that day. All right, this is Amos 8 and verse 11, and Yahweh Ratazad's lesson was edifying. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing of the words of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. So you got that famine as well. All right, twofold. The Lord bringing a double famine, a famine of the lack of bread and a famine of the hearing of the words of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Verse 12, and they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and shall not find it. Right? You go wonder. All right, because that's what it was written for you to do. Wonder. All right. The beast that thou sawest, that was and now is, they're wondering. All right, that's the heathen 2/3 of our people. They wondering what that beast is, what it exists, and they still thinking it's a physical beast, a dragon. No, it's America being that great whore sitting upon many waters. That 7 heads and that 10 horns. 7 heads represent the European Union, the European councils, and the 10 horns representing what America set up in the 10 FEMA zones, like the 10 common markets of ancient Rome. And it also represents NATO, the military fraction of what the Lord is getting ready to put against the bricks. All right, Ezekiel 38. All right, and that's why famine ultimately has to come to this place, because America is a third world country. All right, but the people still wondering. All right, and they go wonder for the word too in that day. But Shalom, have a thought detail into the next one.